sit down and have coffee with us.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to Vlogmas. We are finally sitting down to film the postpartum Q&A. I literally think we put this question poll up on my Instagram in like September, and it is now the middle of December.
Yeah.
But like life happens, babies happen, and so here we are. Before we get into today's video, we did kind of just want to recap quickly our births and kind of our stories, so that way as we're answering all these questions about postpartum, you kind of have an idea. So obviously I had this little man, so I
not so little, 7
not
months.
so little, my 7-month-old. So I gave birth vaginally at 39 weeks and 2 days. They're a little over 39 weeks. I think it was 39 weeks and 2 days. But I went into labor at a car show and my water broke, even though I felt like I literally just peed my pants. And then I went into the hospital. I was 5 centimeters when I came into the hospital, and my labor in total was 13 hours from the time my water broke to the time that I had him. But truly, I was good vibes only for a very, very long portion of my labor. I felt really great. They had to actually go in and break the rest of my water because it did not completely break all the way. And then after it completely broke all the way, that is when I realized what real contractions felt like. And so I had real contractions that were very intense and very painful for about 2.5 hours. And then I pushed for an hour and a half and got this little man.
I was 35 weeks and 2 days with my twin girls. They were just about, one of them was 6 pounds, one of them was 5 pounds. So they were pretty good sized twins. I had a scheduled C-section for the end of July, but I went into labor July 5th, so a little early. I went into labor at 2:30 in the morning. We rushed to the hospital. Everything was going okay. Their heartbeats were stable. My eye was all good. So it wasn't an emergency C-section. It was just a C-section. But I had them around 5:30 in the morning, and everything was all good from there. They spent no time in the NICU, which was incredible. We were thrilled about that, and we had to stay a little bit longer in the hospital just to make sure that they were all good, since they were still preemies. But we were all good to go. We went home with them, which is pretty incredible.
Question number 1. Anna, would you do a VBAC? I'm having my second and I'm unsure what to do.
Yes, good question. So for those who don't know, a VBAC is a vaginal birth after cesarean. I would. I think that part of my type A personality would say it was actually good to have a scheduled date though. So it's something that me and my husband have talked about, having a date, knowing what happens. I know the recovery from a C-section, how my body handled it. I don't know yet how my body would respond to a vaginal birth. So we're definitely going back and forth. I'm definitely not opposed to it. I think it really depends on this next baby, if and when we do have one, what that baby is like, what's its weighing, if it's head up, head down. There's a lot of factors, but it's really something that I'm not opposed to.
What is the number 1 thing you wish you knew going into being a mom?
I would say to give yourself lots of grace. I think there's a lot of societal pressure to be the perfect mom all the time, and you can quite easily lose yourself in motherhood. You kind of forget who you are a little bit. Of course, those first couple weeks you're kind of just surviving, not thriving, but to give yourself a lot of grace. That's always what I tell people when I know they're going to give birth soon. Those first couple weeks of postpartum, new moms now that I'm 6 months out, I'm still newly postpartum, of course, but it's a little bit different of an experience. But I would say just to give yourself lots of grace. It's a hard time on you, your spouse. It's a whole new adventure, process, experience in your life that you've never done before. Even if it is your second or third baby, it's a new experience with this new child. So giving yourself lots of grace is definitely a good one when it comes to cleaning, cooking, spending time with friends, family, giving yourself the time you need to recover.
For me, the number 1 thing that I needed as a reminder in the beginning, that is to just trust your instincts. I feel like with me, especially in the beginning with AJ, I was really, really stressed about how much he was weighing, and I let other people kind of dictate how I felt about that. I let doctors' opinions kind of dictate how I felt about it, and I really was mad at myself as a mother. I blame myself a lot as a mother, and like mom guilt is a very real thing. Definitely. But I feel like nobody knows how to parent your child more than you do. Like, nobody loves your baby more than you do, and you are never going to do something that you do not think is best for your child with the information you have right now. It is so easy to say 1 or 2 months down the line, like, oh, I wish I would have done that differently, I wish I would have done that differently, but you are doing the best you can with the information you have right now. And so just trust yourself. You know exactly what you're supposed to be doing in this current moment, because that's what's best for you and your family and your baby. And I feel like going into being a mom, I think I didn't realize how much I was going to question myself. So I feel like I needed that reminder of, you can trust yourself. You know, you give yourself a lot more credit, even though you've never done this before. You will know exactly what you're supposed to do when the time comes. What are your must-haves for postpartum recovery for both vaginal and C-section? So for me, I had a vaginal birth. I would say my #1 postpartum recovery was Depends. Guys, honestly,
that's so true.
Literally, adult diapers, like Depends, literally changed my life. I was super, super fortunate that I did not tear. And so I had minimal postpartum bleeding for an extensive period of time, outside of being in the hospital. But I did not love the whole, like, putting pads and all of that stuff into your underwear, and then it's just this whole thing. Like, I just did not like the big, bulky, gigantic maxi pads. And so Depends were like just a little bit more comfortable. They felt just like you were wearing just underwear. Like, you definitely still felt like you were wearing a diaper, but also like you were, no matter what you were doing. So it just felt a little bit more,
it's either a thick pad or a thinner Depends type of vibe.
So I would say that was life-changing. And then for me, with the vaginal birth, those like padsicles that you can get were absolutely incredible, whether you make them yourself, because I know some people do that, and I use the Freedom Mom ones, and they were literally life-changing, because things are a little swollen down there postpartum. And so it was nice. It was like a nice relief. So I would say those are probably my 2 must-haves. But something to remind yourself of as well is to pack loose-fitting clothes for the hospital. You are not going to want to put anything tight on your body immediately at least pants-wise, immediately postpartum. So have loose-fitting clothing that you can wear over your diapers.
So that's actually interesting that you said loose-fitting clothing, because I actually was going the opposite. So for a C-section, you kind of feel like your organs are going to come out of you. So when you get cut open, it's actually sometimes nice to have a little bit of pressure. So what actually felt good for me was something like biker shorts, where it kind of had a little bit of compression. A lot of the Freedom Mom kits also have that compression wrap as well, which I know a lot of C-sections mom love. I did a lot of research because no one I know close to me has had a C-section. So I did a lot of reading, a lot of research about what is good for a C-section. So I would say that. I would also say just to have like a nice little setup, especially with the C-section. Get yourself up and moving as fast as you can, because then it'll also speed up recovery. I was actually recovered faster, way faster than I thought I would, just from hearing other people's C-section stories. So I would say to have a nice little setup when you get home as well, just because going up to the bathroom in the beginning is still painful for vaginal or for a C-section. So postpartum needs in general, like we said, the Depends, pads, things like that in the bathroom that make you feel good. When you get out of the bathroom, you should basically feel like a new person in a sense, because that should be a little bit of a sense of relief. Like, I feel fresh.
And I feel like that's why I like the Depends as well, because you just feel a little bit more like
you just take them off.
Normal. Yeah, like you're just like, okay, goodbye, get rid of them. Do you guys have stretch marks? I'm really struggling with mine. Honestly, I hate them. I'm actually super fortunate that I really do not have a ton of stretch marks on my body. I have never really been prone to stretch marks. I think that played a huge factor when it came to being pregnant. Yes, I was using oils and creams and all of that, but how much of that actually works, how much of it is genetic, how much of that is just individual person, I really don't know any of that. For myself, I really don't have a ton of stretch marks. I do have a couple of lines like around my hips, but nothing super obvious that if you didn't know that I had given birth and was pregnant, you probably wouldn't assume that that is what it was from.
So I have a complete opposite. I think it's pretty hard going into a twin pregnancy to expect not having any stretch marks at all. So I had processed and kind of taken in the fact that I was going to come out with stretch marks. I had stretch marks even growing up through puberty. I had them on my boobs, I had them on my hips, on my back, just from growing so fast. So I am like tiger stripes all up and down my stomach, on my back, on my sides. truly, I know it is really hard. I know it is to see yourself in a different light. Even people talk about the weight of pregnancy, but there's that whole other aspect of my body doesn't look the same because of weight, but also it just doesn't look the same even physically because of the stretch marks. So I get it. I understand what you're going through. And then on top of that, having the C-section scar, it's something completely different. It's hard. I understand, but you just have to keep reminding yourself when you look in the mirror that you grew a whole other freaking human. Like you have to put it in perspective of like how incredible your body is. And I think you do kind of come to that conclusion as well when you do give birth, because now you have evidence and proof of what you did. During pregnancy, I felt some type of way about it. And now that I have my beautiful girls and they're healthy and I grew them from scratch, I think it's easier once you have them to say like, I did the damn thing. I have that as proof.
Yeah.
Instead of while you're pregnant, you don't really have any like proof quite yet.
And that doesn't make it less difficult. Like it is still so hard through all of pregnancy and then postpartum to see your body just look so drastically different than it ever has before. So it kind of like back to what Anna was even saying before, like just give yourself grace. Like it is absolutely and totally fine if you have good days and bad days with it. Like I am sure there are some days you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to absolutely hate your stretch marks, and that is valid. You are totally allowed to do that. But then also, like she said, remember the beautiful thing that those stretch marks gave you, and that is your baby or babies. And that is just so remarkable. And although it may not make it easier, it just puts into perspective like they're beautiful storylines, and we all have them. We all have cellulite. Some people just show it or hide it better than others. The thing you've been the most grateful for throughout the process. I think for me, the support that I have received from friends and family has been so incredibly helpful. I think it also is very eye-opening because I think postpartum you find out who your real friends are, and I think you find out who's really going to be there for you no matter what, and that can be a very difficult realization. But I think that is what I'm the most grateful for, is the amazing support that I have from my incredible husband, who literally supports me and will do absolutely anything and everything that I ask him to do, to my mom, who is now watching AJ full time so I can be back at work, to my friends who have supported me, who check in on me, who come over to visit me, and who come to my house because they know that's the most convenient way for us to hang out at this point now with the baby, to my family, to Anna for like just getting it and being there. So I feel like I have been so overwhelmed by the amount of amazing support that I have, and I always knew that, but I feel like these type of big life events really bring out the best and the worst of people. And so I am just genuinely,
they can either take the path with you or split.
Yeah, and I feel like it really does take an army to raise children, and I think like I feel really grateful that I have a really powerful army around me, because for me at least, Timmy went back to work pretty much right away after we got home from the hospital. And if I was in a place where I didn't have a lot of friends or family around or close, I know I would have struggled a lot more postpartum, having to basically do it all on my own while he was and had to go back to work. And so I'm really, really grateful for all of that.
Just a little side note. I think it takes a village, not an army.
Well, mine's an army. They can fight.
I think going through infertility, it gives a gratitude like no other now. I get emotional basically on a daily basis, just even like looking at my child and what we had to do to get them. And the effort that they are so wanted. Not that any child, not that AJ is of course not wanted. I think it's just the fact that we went through hell and back, and I know people go through more than we did, but we did go through a lot to get them as well. So just that gratitude of we did the damn thing. We're here, we did it, we succeeded in what we wanted to do. And of course we want more, but right now just being grateful for where we are right now, and being present in this moment, because we got here, which is what all we wanted last year. In this moment was to be where we are now. But I also co-sign everything Marissa just said. I think it takes a village to raise a child.
Or an army.
Or an army, if you're the fighting type. I'm not. Same thing, my husband, from especially with, like I said, with the C-section recovery, came through. He had to put in double overtime. He's been with me every step of the way of postpartum, because he works from home, so whether he wants to or not, he's always home with me and the girls, so we do everything all the time together. And just in general, I think Marissa's correct in the fact that you see who your true friends are in moments like this, and people can be there for you the whole pregnancy. They're so excited for your kid to be born, and but then they spend 1 second with them crying and they're like, okay, I'm out. So I think just grateful for the people that showed up and still continue to stay and stick around.
Something else I'm grateful for that I just feel like isn't talked about enough. I'm so grateful for my body. I have never been more appreciative of my body than I am right now. And that kind of goes back to what we were just talking about with the stretch marks. Like, it doesn't change the fact that it is so difficult sometimes to see your body change. And I'm not saying that I absolutely love my body right now, but I just think I have a newfound appreciation for my body because I grew my baby. I grew my baby from nothing, and now I am feeding my baby with my body, and that is just the most amazing feeling. And I have never been more grateful for my body and all it has done for me and my family than I am right now. What is the hardest part about motherhood? I feel like there's a lot, honestly, that goes into this. I tell everybody who asks me how motherhood is going that it is the most amazing thing that I have ever done in my life, but it is the most challenging thing that I have ever done in my entire life. I love every single second of being AJ's mom, and I would not literally trade it for the world, but it challenges me in some way every single day. And I think for myself personally, the biggest challenge and the hardest part is, like Anna was kind of saying earlier, that kind of like loss of identity, that loss of self. And I'm not saying that I don't know who I am anymore, but I do think you have to, it's so incredibly,
you kind of have to grieve the person you were and kind of like a new version of yourself. Taylor's version.
It's the most selfless you have ever been in your entire life. It is the you can be starving and you can be tired and none of that matters because your baby is awake and they need you, and they might be starving and they might be tired. And as a mom right now in my life, those needs come first. And so I think that is the hardest part right now, is that sometimes by the end of the day, you just want 3 seconds. Like, you just want 3 seconds to go to the bathroom and pee in silence. You just want to walk outside and get some fresh air. Like, you just want to scroll on your phone, watch a YouTube video without having to be worried about your baby
One night
crying.
uninterrupted.
And again, that doesn't mean you're not so grateful for it, but that is, I think that constant selflessness can be the hardest part for me right now in motherhood, is that like, right now, I love being a mom, and I love that I am in my mom era, and I love it so much. But it is definitely a battle of who I was before to who I am now, and trying to balance all of that to be this new version.
Yeah, I think the most challenging part of motherhood hasn't happened for me quite yet. I honestly think it's going to be for when I go back to work. And right now, I am full mom mode all the time, and just in about 2 weeks, almost even a week, I go back full time. So my mom will be watching the girls full time, and I will be going back to work full time. And I think that's going to be really hard for me. I love the girls so much, and I want to be there for all their first, just like every other parent. And right now I have been, and that's drastically going to change come January 2nd. So I think that's going to be really hard for me. I've been emotionally and mentally preparing for myself. I've had a lot of MTVs, but I think it's going to challenge me in a different way. So I think that's going to be the most challenging, but I'll report back. As a pumping mom, pumping at work, doing all the things too, I think that's going to have its own challenges, so I'll report back.
You're just never fully off as a mom, so especially now going back to work and being working, like you work all day, you come home and you're not working. It's just a different version of work. And so whether you're a stay-at-home mom or whether you're a working mom, like you are a working mom in my mind. And so that can be challenging, that you have to be on pretty much 24/7. Even when the baby's asleep, they might wake up and then immediately need you. Knowing what you know now, would you want more kids? Yes, absolutely. Like, not even a question in my mind. I literally love my little boy, and I would love to have more babies. Like, I think for us, our perfect and ideal number, if we're lucky enough to have it, would be 3. But we'll see what kind of comes our way. But I definitely want more children.
I definitely want more too. We always get questions about this, especially with having twins right off the bat. Everyone always thinks that scared us, but actually it's done the opposite. Our number right now is 4. We're halfway there, so because we knocked 2 out at one time. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, we had to go a lot to get these 2, so we'll see if financially we can handle it, emotionally we can handle it, but we would love to have more.
Marissa, did you do an epidural, and do you regret it? I did do an epidural, and no, I do not regret it. Whoa, I don't know why.
Regret it.
I developed an accent. I told myself going into labor that I was going to be very, very open-minded about whatever was best for me, and whatever was best for my baby is what I was going to do. I wanted a vaginal birth, and I wanted to do it as naturally as possible, but I was open to anything and everything. And I knew going into it, I wanted to take my body as far naturally as I felt like my body could handle in that moment, and I feel like I did that. I went into the hospital at 5 centimeters, and I dilated to 9 centimeters and had some pretty gnarly contractions for like 2.5 hours to get to that point. And I got to that point, and I kind of had the reflection like, okay, it doesn't stop at 9 centimeters. You indeed have to push a human being out of your body after this. Do I have enough energy to do that? And I did not feel like I did. And so I got an epidural, and I do not regret it. I felt so much better after having like 30 minutes to kind of relax for a moment before I went into pushing. And it, for me, with his labor, was the best decision I made. And I am very, very grateful I did it. I felt like it went exactly how I wanted it to go going into it. Anything you missed about being pregnant? I loved being pregnant. I am so shocked at how much I loved being pregnant. I thought I was going to hate being pregnant. I thought I was going to hate my body while I was pregnant, because I am obviously super into fitness, and I thought it was going to be so weird seeing my body like quote unquote bigger than it had ever been before in my life. And I loved being pregnant. I loved my pregnant body. I felt so confident in my pregnant body. I miss my bump. I really do. I love
everyone's nice to you.
It's true. I loved my bump. I miss my bump. I like being able to like dress it and style it. And I love the feeling of having him kick inside of you. Like, I just love that connection that you feel as a pregnant mom to your baby. And like, obviously you still feel it once they're here, but I definitely loved being pregnant. So I miss it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah. I miss like second trimester vibes. Like first trimester, I was so sick. Second trimester, I was crushing it. Third trimester, I was just so uncomfortable. Having 2 babies inside of you is a different feeling. 4 legs, 4 arms. It's a lot going on.
Also keep in mind, like I had a super quote unquote easy pregnancy and easy labor, so I know that my experience is different than other people's experiences in terms of,
both very lucky.
Yeah, in terms of pregnancy. I know some people absolutely hate being pregnant, but I literally was able to work out my entire pregnancy up until 2 days before I had AJ, so I'm super grateful for that. And I know that also is a reason why I can look back so fondly on pregnancy when not all moms can. Question of the day: what is the most unexpected thing about delivery/motherhood?
I think the most unexpected thing about recovery definitely was you're stronger than you think. I went into it really doubting myself. I'm a pretty soft person. I like to think of myself as like a lover, not a fighter type of vibe. And I constantly was going into it like, I can't do it. Recovery is going to be really hard for me. I'm a pretty weak, quote unquote, person. And I surprised the hell out of myself. I recovered really easily from my C-section. Having 2 babies inside of me was a high risk situation, and I thought at the end I was going to have to be put on bed rest. I was going to have to basically like sit still, not move, to keep them inside of me, all that kind of stuff. But I really shocked myself. I was in and out of the pool July 4th. Like I was crushing it. And then I went into labor and I recovered really easily. So I think the most thing that shocked me was that I'm stronger than I thought. And now I know that I have a little bit more grit than I thought I did. If I put my mind to it, I can do it.
For me, one of the biggest things was that what like kind of funny, but like your water doesn't always like whoosh like it does in the movies. That was literally her experience, was the whoosh. Mine was not. I quite literally felt like I peed my pants. So like your water does not always break. And I think one of the biggest things, I was terrified of labor. I was terrified of labor. I was terrified of the process. I was like, I have never pushed a human being out of me. I have no idea what to expect. How will my body know what to do? I didn't know what I was going into it. And I think now that I have had such a positive birth experience, I think it's so important to share that not all births are scary. Not all births are bad. We both had such positive birth experiences.
Good doctors, good hospitals, good nurses are key. Shout out Anna.
So I feel like that was the most unexpected thing in the entire world for me, was that like I was expecting it to be the worst experience in my entire life, was labor and screaming and crying, and my experience was none of those things. And so I feel like labor does not have to be scary. Obviously everyone's experience is so entirely different, and some people's are very traumatizing and very scary
and valid,
but that is not the case for everybody. So if that is something that you are afraid of, you are entirely valid in your fear,
but it might not happen.
But it may not happen. there are
Yeah.
positive birth experiences as
Yeah,
well. And then
absolutely.
similar to Anna, like, I think motherhood really shows you how freaking strong you are, and that you are capable of literally anything you set your mind to. You can do everything with one hand. you can pee while holding a baby, like literally anything and everything you set your mind to. You can be the most exhausted you have ever been in your entire life and somehow still survive.
Yep.
And so, like, not that that was unexpected, but it's the truth. You really do find out what you are capable of and what you are, like, I think it is the most empowering thing I have ever done, being a mom. Truly, like, I feel like I am exactly who I'm supposed to be right now as a mom. Alright, y'all, so with that being said, we are going to wrap up the video here. I always feel like I have to say about this whenever I talk about postpartum or pregnancy or motherhood as a whole. This is obviously our experiences, and everyone's experience is so entirely different. And so we don't ever want to make it seem like someone's experience is not valid. We just want to speak on the experiences that we have had so far as mothers and our experience up until this point. But with that being said, we are going to wrap up the video here. If you guys like this video, please make sure you go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. You already know it supports my channel. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you never miss another video that I post. If you haven't already, make sure you follow me on my Instagram and TikTok so you can see other fitness, health, and lifestyle content I post on there. And tell them we will catch you guys here next time.